Hello, my name's Sam McDonald. I'm a video producer with Vista Productions here in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I'm recording this in our little studio here in Bentonville. And today I'm going to talk about some video pro tips, different things that I've learned throughout the years that have made life a little bit easier, and how you can get started getting your video production process going. This is going to be pretty informal. I'm going to jump back and forth between some links that I've pulled up. And yeah, hopefully you get something out of it. And something to keep in mind as a video producer, you know, lots of people do things lots of different ways. And so there's going to be some stuff in here that you're going to find really helpful, and other stuff that you're like, I really don't even need that. And that's totally cool. Just take what you need and leave the rest, and we'll go from there, I guess. I don't know. Doing this virtually is kind of strange, so we're going to see how this goes. So, I'm a video producer. That means, you know, in the Hollywood level, that would mean that I have lots and lots of money and I fund really big films and that kind of thing. And in my world, a video producer is simply the person who wrangles all the people and information and puts them in the same spot in order to produce videos. So we do a lot of corporate documentaries and training videos and, you know, live event coverage back when we used to have live events, and lots of different stuff like that. So videos, social media, testimonials, those are the types of things that I work on, not necessarily, you know, big time movies, although I still think my stuff's pretty important too. So where I'll start is if you're just wanting to start out and start getting your kit together, you know, we've been doing this for 30 years, so we've had lots and lots of free time, or lots and lots of time to put together all of our gear and kit, and we've taken years, and we've got lots of expensive lights and big cases and, you know, like big cameras and really cool stuff like that. But it honestly, in order to do video production, you only need a handful of things to start out with. And so let's dive into that. So if you see here, I've built up what would be considered the introductory course, introductory package for a young video producer. And so first and foremost, you're always going to want to have a tripod. Those are very, very needed for the video production world, because otherwise your footage is always just shaky and bouncing around everywhere, and a tripod's a really good place to leave your camera so you can hook stuff up to it, or just make sure that it's going to stay secure. Obviously, I've got my camera right now on a tripod. It's just very handy to keep all of your stuff on. What else is in our video cart? Lights. Always going to need some sort of 3-point lighting kit. That's what I'm using right now. There's a light there, and there's even a little one over there that you can't even see that gives me this nice edge right here. You probably already heard this, but if you're going to be starting out in your kit, a nice, inexpensive LED package is the way to go. So, moving back to a microphone. On your camera, it's going to come equipped with a microphone, but honestly, it's probably not going to be that great. And so having an off-board mic that you can put onto your camera that's going to be more directional is really necessary. And you can also use it for a lav mic, like right here. That's what you're hearing me from. It's not from the camera, it's from this lav mic. And you can do the same thing with a little microphone like this, and this will plug right into a DSLR. Next up is the camera. And obviously you can do things from really super expensive cameras to not so expensive cameras. And so the one that I've got pulled up for you right here is the a little Canon T7i. I started off with a T3i. It was the one that was even more bottom shelf than this one. But honestly, if it gets an image, you know, this is going to give you a nice 1080 image. It'll be fine for a lot of the stuff you're doing right now. You know, that nobody's going to be looking at you expecting to have top-end 4K awesome imaging, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. But, you know, just start off with a simple DSLR, and this is going to get you, once you learn how to master and use this camera to its fullest extent, which would take you a couple of years, honestly, then you'll be ready to move up to something different. But as of right now, if you drop this thing, you're not going to feel nearly as bad about it as if you drop, you know, like a thousands of dollars worth of camera. And you know, you're going to make a few mistakes whenever you get started, so no worries there. Start off with an inexpensive camera. And one really good pro tip that I wish somebody would have told me a lot sooner is that wheels, a cart to put all your stuff on and maybe put it into a plastic tote on top of this, This is something that can fold up and go into the back of your car, the back of your truck, and it'll make life a whole lot easier whenever you're going from different locations or even shooting videos with your friends. You can pack all your stuff into your little plastic tote, throw it on this set of wheels, and just roll it somewhere. And obviously carts come in handy for all kinds of stuff in life. But being able to have all of your stuff in one box and put it on a set of wheels and roll it somewhere is going to make it a lot easier for you to do what you want to do, because everything's always in the same spot, and you're not walking into a building with a bunch of cords wrapped around your neck, and your pockets are stuffed with batteries and stuff like that. So get a little plastic tote and get one of these carts. Maybe not this one specifically. You can buy really cheap ones for like $80, or you can find used ones. But the moral of the story is get wheels. It'll make your life a whole lot more simple. So that sort of covers the initial gear stuff that you're going to need. But from a creative standpoint, there's a lot of stuff you can do where you're at in your career, if that's what you want to start calling it, or your hobby, that you can do to start being more creative and starting to understand more about how other people produce stuff, or how they get images, or how they like to find things. So I like to go. There's a saying that imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and that's very true in the video production world. None of us would have any sort of bearing on how to do this if people before us hadn't already done it. So if you think that you're going to reinvent the way that people do film, it's a nice thought, but there's probably somebody out there already doing it, and they can show you how to do it that same way, and then you can just do it too. It doesn't matter that much. I like to go to Vimeo. Their staff's picks. They have a lot of really cool, edgy, really neat stuff that people do, and I'm not going to click on any of these because I have no idea what some of this stuff is. So I will not do that. But if you're just browsing around and you want to see how other people are doing things, this is a really great place to start. Also, get on YouTube, look up other producers and find people that you really like. And I think that's really important, because once you start understanding that it's not necessarily the equipment that you have, because a lot of people really like to get wound up about super snazzy, nice equipment. Once you understand that it's not necessarily how fancy the equipment you have is, it's more about your skill sets and how do you use that equipment. These are great places to go to see how to find inspiration and work on your craft a lot better. So, next spot that I'm going to, podcast. Podcasts are fantastic. One of my favorites is right here. It's called the Go Creative Show. It has a lot of tips from current filmmakers and people who are making really big time stuff, and not big time stuff, just normal corporate content. You can find filmmakers. Look, there's even a whole thing right here on the iPhone 12 for filmmakers. So there's a whole movement for people making films on iPhones right now. But either way, there's a lot of really different cool subject matter in here that you can dive into, and you'll learn a lot from hearing professionals talk about how they approach their craft. And honestly, I go here every week, and I try to listen to all the podcasts that I can, because I'm always trying to learn and do new fun things. Let's see. Next tip. So whenever you're starting to get equipment, and I know that some of the stuff I talked about earlier, that's $800 if you're in high school. That's not like you have that laying around usually. So, but once you get that first package in place, you're going to start thinking about other things that you want to buy, like boom poles and shotgun mics and different types of lights and video recorders. There's a lot of stuff that's already out there that you can get that's used, that's going to be absolutely 100% useful, and you can totally avoid buying it 100% new. Now, of course, you have to be a little bit careful about where you're buying it from and making sure it's in good condition, but you can save a lot of money right now going on eBay and just purchasing things that other people are selling because they don't want them anymore. And one of the funniest things that we have is, my personal camera is this guy. This is a Canon C300. It's a Mark I. And this is an 11 or 12-year-old camera at this point. And I use it for corporate shoots sometimes whenever I don't have the access to some of the other cameras that I want to use. And it works fantastic. The camera part is this guy right here, obviously. So, but once you start thinking about all the other stuff that you might want to have on there, like a battery or a lens or a nice viewfinder, or maybe and remote video signaling and some wireless audio that goes into it, you're going to find that you're going to start adding up a lot of stuff to your package that you know, maybe hadn't planned for, but you kind of think you need. eBay is a great place to go to get this stuff used. And while we were talking about the cameras, that C300, you can buy that camera, that exact camera right there, the used version of it, for about $1,500. And that says a lot because you have a lot of people who are wound up about 4K and you know, really, really high-end imaging, like, you know, the Red cameras or the Arri Alexas or these really highfalutin cameras that some of you folks might already know about because the younger generation is getting a whole lot smarter about this stuff faster. Honestly, those really big, nice cameras are cool, but it's like giving a Ferrari to a 4-year-old. Not that you're 4 years old, but like the image quality and the usability of those cameras are really designed towards top-end people with multiple people working on those cameras in a really big setting. And I think that a lot of people will find that you can get away with a whole lot more with one of these more or less expensive cameras, and then you can buy some of the extra things around it, like I was telling you about, like your batteries and your wireless and a good monitor and stuff. Instead of spending all your money on the camera brain, you can just spend money on some of the other little things around it to make it more usable for you in the field and for maybe your clients one day whenever you start doing that. Hopefully this isn't rambling too much. I have no idea how long this was going to take, and I'm still not sure how long I've been recording, but hopefully some of this stuff is pretty helpful for you. One thing I wanted to bring up was when it came to gear, think about what you're purchasing and try and think about how long it's going to be good for. So if you buy a brand new camera today, in 2 years it's going to be outdated by industry standards. So again, don't get too wound up on buying the top-end cameras because you can buy gear that's 3 or 4 years old in that regard, like computers and cameras that get outdated really quickly. Buy used stuff because it's going to have a lot more bang for your buck. And then whenever you start thinking about stuff that you do want to purchase that you can use long-term, think about the things that are not going to get outdated, like C-stands or stands or sometimes lights, you know, good microphones, good lenses. Those things don't really wear out over time. They wear out, but they won't lose their value nearly as quickly as a camera will or as a computer will. So just when you're buying gear, make sure you're kind of keeping that in mind, that you buy things thinking about how much you're going to use it right now and the place that you're at versus how long it's still going to be good for. Because if you're in high school right now and you convince your parents to give you $5,000 to buy a Red, well, you know, that camera is going to be good for a certain amount of time. Whereas if you bought, let's say, $1,000 camera or a $1,500 camera, and then you spent $3,500 on all the other fun stuff to make it do a lot more, you're going to get a lot more mileage out of it. So something to think about. Google Drive. Everybody knows what Google Drive is. We use it all the time. If you don't know what Google Drive is, Google has this platform that basically has cloud sharing to where you can keep your files on the cloud. Wherever that cloud is, it's up there and you can keep your files there. I'm sure everybody watching this is already very adept to Google Drive, but what you may not be using it for is for your video projects. And so if you ever got done working on a project and then you couldn't find where your files were, or you couldn't find where you put some of this stuff after you had saved it, well, a really smart thing to do is have Google Drive sync directly onto your desktop computer, and you can go through and use all those files anytime in the future as long as you have access to your Google Drive, because they're stuck in the cloud. So if I go in here and I click on, let's say, any one of these projects, each one of these has all my files in it, and it's saved to the cloud. And the cool part is, you know, I've got project file, proxy footage, and project files. All that stuff exists right in here. And the interesting part is that if for some reason I lose my laptop or if my desktop goes down or something, these files are all still in the cloud. So if you shoot on a camera that has small enough file sizes, like the C300 has really tiny file sizes and it's great, you can just throw that right up on the cloud and you have access to it from anywhere, and it's like an automatic backup. Something to keep in mind too, while we're going through this, is I have a file structure that I use for every single project that I do. So basically I'll go into Google Drive and I'll copy this folder and I'll duplicate it, And every time I do that, it gives me a brand new file structure here. And then I manipulate that file structure to keep all my stuff organized. So I have like planning documents where all these things go in here, scripts and outlines and storyboards, and proxy footage, and that's where all my video goes. And then project files, that's where all my Adobe project files go. Graphics, I have a place for After Effects project files and assets and pics and renders. And then audio, I have a place for audio master files, music beds, sound effects, voiceover. And then outputs, I've got masters and rough cuts. So the point is that every time I start a new project, I'm not having to rebuild this file structure every single time. It's already there for me. So if you create this whole thing in the first place and then duplicate it and manipulate it that way, you're going to have it sitting on Drive already, and it's going to be organized the same way for every project you do, because there's nothing more frustrating than coming back to a project after you've done and not being able to find the stuff you need in order to finish it. So something to keep in mind. One other thing to think about is it's really important that you keep your files, your footage files, on a separate drive than your actual computer. Like I said, computers go down, they fail sometimes, especially if you're living in that PC world, man. You never know when that thing's going to go belly up on you. So buying yourself a nice little solid state drive is really important, and they have lots of little solid state drives that you can put footage onto. And if you're not shooting, again, in really big file sizes, you can fit a lot of projects onto one of these solid state drives. Now they're a little pricey, it's like $200 for a couple terabytes, but being able to leave that footage at home and keep it safe rather than riding around in your backpack or in a not safe fashion like that is really smart. So if you put the footage here and then you also get it on Google Drive, then you are in really good shape as far as having backups and feeling safe about that project that you really hope you don't lose, but sometimes that just has a habit of happening. Next tip, Vimeo. Vimeo is a really awesome place for you to put your videos and interact with people about them. So if you look here on Vimeo, we use Vimeo a lot. We have 770 videos that have been uploaded, and these are all client projects. So these are all things that we've worked with clients on, and this is where we go to put those, and we interact with the clients because they have the ability to go in and make suggestions right here from the Vimeo pages. So they can click right on here and type stuff up, or if you and your friends are working on a project together, your friend can come in here and be like, click here, I don't like the color here, she is too bright, which is true, so we'll have to fix that later on. So, but that adds right there, and that's kind of a neat deal that you and your friends can all use to interact and manipulate videos together whenever you work on them. It's a really cool tool. We use it exclusively with clients and as a place to kind of keep all of our outputs. But there's a lot of really cool tools within Vimeo that, again, you'll be able to use with you and your friends while you're working on projects together. The most important thing that I can leave you with are two notes. It's called a C-stand, and it's called over and under. As you are trying to get involved with video productions and get on sets and get on movie sets and things like that, there are two skill sets that are, to me, always dead giveaways that somebody either knows what they're doing or has no idea what they're doing. It's called C-stand setup and over-under. And I won't be able to show you exactly all the ins and outs of how to set up a C-stand, but you can definitely go online and find all kinds of tutorials about how best practices of C-stands work and how to use them on sets and be around them. So be sure you check that out. There's a thing called Pro Tip How to Set Up a C-stand right there. It's a really good way to show somebody you know what you're doing, at least, fake it till you make it, know what you're doing. And the next one is how to coil cables, the over-under technique. And over-undering a cable is another thing. And you might be learning this in school, you might not. But if you're not, your teachers should definitely be teaching you the over and under. And there's a lot of different ways that people talk about it. Again, everybody in the industry uses this technique, or at least everybody around here does, or they should be anyway. You can go on and Google it, and you'll see right there how to do the over and under. So I don't know, that was a rapid fire bunch of tips that I have for my class here, and I've got another one about more of the business side of video production, so hopefully you found this interesting, and good luck at the rest of the festival. We'll talk soon.